633. This is 1320 WILS. Well, the FBI director, James Comey, he's already come out and said that we're seeing increased rates of violence and murder in many of our urban areas, and he says it's because of what he calls the viral video effect. The police officers basically are being less proactive because of the public reaction we've seen to things like Ferguson. Let's find out if this is a bad development. We're joined by Dr. G.M. Cox, law enforcement expert. He's the director of the Public Administration Master's Degree Program at Tarleton State University, and I should say he's had more than 4 decades of experience in law enforcement. Dr. Cox, great to have you here.
Great to be here, Mike.
Yeah. So you were a police officer then, is that right?
Sir?
You served. Now, where were you actually a police officer?
Oh, I was the chief of police in 4 cities in Texas, Oak Ridge North, which is around Houston. Then I went out to West Texas to a little place called La Mesa, Texas. Ended up in Corsicana, where I was chief for 15 years and retired there, and moved up to Murphy, Texas, between Plano and Wiley, and I retired July of 2015 after 35 years as chief of police and over 43 years as a police officer.
Incredible. And what's the most difficult part of being a police officer?
I think the most difficult part is seeing all the human suffering. We tend to deal with people when they're not at their best and they're having crises, and that kind of jaundices our opinion. So we have to constantly reinforce the fact that, most citizens are really good people and they just have problems. But we do have a certain set of frequent flyers that kind of jaundice our opinion from time to time. So we constantly have to fight that.
Yeah, and I mean, how do you? I mean, if most of you're literally the last protection we have against violence in the society. Before you have to deal with these characters. So if that's most of what you do on your job, how do you keep from getting a bad view on human beings in general?
Well, we try to keep grounded, and many police chiefs and departments constantly trying to reinforce the fact it's not us against them. Mm-hmm. It's everybody against those who would violate the law and prey on those citizens who can't defend themselves or whatever. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly trying to reinforce that.
Now, tell me this, Dr. Cox, because the FBI Director, James Comey, he says that the reason we're seeing increasing crime rates, including in Dallas, increasing murder rates there, 42% increase in homicides in Dallas, where you are, he says that's because police are now less aggressive because they don't want to end up on another viral video. Do you agree with him?
I think there might be some truth to that. I don't think there's really been any research in that. So it's certainly the FBI director's right to have an opinion and express that opinion. Being an academic, I might be a little more reserved and say, well, there's not a lot of research being done on that yet because it's relatively new, this idea of the body cam.
Okay.
You may remember going back years and years ago when we implemented the dash cam. We thought that was going to have a chilling effect on officers, and it did to some degree, but after experience we find that many of the dash cam videos support the officer, not the other way around.
Okay, but do you feel that because of these viral videos, do you think police officers are being treated differently than they were in the past, especially in urban centers?
Absolutely. I think it really is the effect is what I call maybe a tertiary effect of the video and how people respond to that video and overly apply what they see to every police officer. And we know that's just not true. Many of these videos are out. They're offensive. I say they're offensive. I think other cops think so. But when people overreact and paint all police officers just like these guys, that's not beneficial.
Yeah, but what do you think when you're, as a former police officer, you see the videos where people are cursing the officer out and essentially defying them completely, not cooperating? Right. What do you think when you see that kind of behavior?
Well, I mean, it's just the kind of thing we deal with daily. That stuff existed long before video. We're just now seeing it. So it's not that I don't think that it's getting any worse. I think it's always been there. Officers have been trained how to put up with it, how to deal with it. We're really going now, the new word is de-escalation. So now all the officers are going through a de-escalation training, which we've always had.
Okay,
the ability to take that down a notch.
What's your estimate of the, because you having been in law enforcement for over 40 years, when you do a stop, what percentage of the time do you actually have somebody that's defying you as a police officer?
Oh, I wouldn't say there was that much of it, quite frankly. Probably, if I had to give a percentage of it, I would say about 3 out of 10 people might have an attitude. Okay. The rest of them are very respectful. They may not be happy about getting a ticket, but I've actually worked with some officers that were able to give a ticket, and the people actually thank them for it later. That's a totally unique experience right there.
Now, do you think if someone is being rude to an officer, does that change the entire dynamic? Is it more likely then that the officer will give a ticket and act more aggressively towards that person?
I think, well, I don't know that they would act more aggressively toward that person, but I know many officers, and I've done it myself, where you have, I guess you'd say, a citizen who challenges the officer, and the officer goes through a decision-making process, and the decision may be, well, I don't see that a warning would fit in this case, so I might give a citation. I've also seen officers who try to compensate for this emotional engagement they're having and not overreact. So I've seen it go both ways. Okay.
The issue of police brutality, in your view, is that a problem in this country, a major problem?
I think any police brutality is a problem. But I don't think it's endemic. I think we need to keep focused at some cops and then overreact, use inappropriate force. On the other hand, we've got to keep in mind that these officers are dealing with very, very dynamic situations, and they have to respond in partial of seconds, not seconds. Yeah. And then they get their actions reviewed ad nauseum by video. And if you were in that situation, and many they've actually done this, they've taken civil rights leaders, some community leaders, and put them in shoot-don't-shoot situations using this virtual reality equipment that we have the ability to use. And every one of them shot innocent people.
They end up shooting because they're in that situation where it's your life or potentially the other person. Tell me this, though. Do you think that race is the key issue then when it comes to the trouble, the problems some departments have with the public?
No, I would like to believe that race is an issue for some people, but not necessarily for the officers or even the department. Clearly, there are some indicators out there that we may have some racial profiling going on. I'd like to believe that's not true, but I'm not ignorant enough nor naive enough to believe that there's not some of it going on. But I think many other people, such as Black Lives Matter, they tend to make race an issue if an officer uses force, when in fact most force is indicated by the person's reaction or uses resistance.
President Obama's leadership on this issue and dealing with police departments, has that helped or hurt things?
I have to say that I haven't seen him respond in a way that other presidents might have in the past. I'd have to say he's got much more of a measured approach to supporting police officers. In many cases, the officers I've talked to don't believe that President Obama does a good job of supporting police officers. On the other hand, just a couple of weeks ago, an officer was recognized and given a national award by President Obama. So, there's some, I guess everybody's going to, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and it's going to be up to whoever sees it to believe it.
Dr. G.M. Cox, law enforcement expert at Tarleton State University, over 40 years as a police officer and a chief. Dr. Cox, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.